Because raising a child, if I said to you, I'm going to start a school class, and that class will teach your children every single week of the year that when they work and earn money, it's for things that they desire and that might make them happen. Plastic junk, toys, music, drugs, alcohol. That's what I'm going to teach my children in school. That's what I'd say to everybody. Everyone would be in uproar and say we are not doing that. But when we do this pocket money thing, and there's no utilitarian consequence for not earning it, it's inadvertently what we are doing to our children.
Spirit bird, she creaks and groans, she knows she has seen this all before. She has seen this all before. She has. Spirit bird, she creaks and groans, she knows she has seen.
Hey guys, I want to talk about the Matrix. Now, I think most people who listen to me know that when I reference the Matrix, I'm referring to the unconscious state that many people live as consumers, just being pushed around by media, by adverts, and having their flesh, their body stimulated to make them behave in certain ways, or to purchase certain things, or partake in certain behaviors. Now, we all know that hypersexing people, you know, you can't turn around in the world without, these days you have constantly, you know, magazines with women with hardly any clothes on smiling at you, and you've got on the internet constantly adverts and videos coming up. And there are so many things that we become conscious of and we would never want our children to be exposed to, but we just know the way of the world is we don't have any moral coding of law toward advertising as such, and thus it's okay to make amazing adverts that make children desire things in between their cartoons on television. This is very damaging because you're training your child to grow up to be a consumer. And if you want to hunt an animal, you need to be able to read its behavior and predict and anticipate what it's going to do. Now, the thing is, with animals, you can do that because they tend to be working off impulses. Humans, you should not always be able to do that, but the hunt is getting people to be profitable and obedient in the most part. And thus, if you allow someone to understand your nature, that it becomes predictable, then you get to a point where you're extremely vulnerable, and your children are very vulnerable to being suckered away from this reality, this beautiful natural reality of contentment and joy, and where you can live based on utilitarian need alone, and you don't need to buy things for your pleasure and to fulfill your desires that you think will make you happy. You don't need to save up for the new sports car when you're content sitting here. And naturally, all humans, I'm noticing, living with tribes, are content with nature over the cities and towns. It seems just naturally inbuilt to many people here. But we don't realize the damage we do to our children often because we ourselves have had the damage done to us. And one of the key proponents I see parents doing in Europe, and it's very unconscious, is related to pocket money. Here the other day, some children came to collect water just behind me, and they were collecting big buckets of water. Even when I was in full health, it would be a struggle to get it out of this valley as a child up to my home 4 or 5 kilometers away. But they were here doing it out of utilitarian need. They were getting water from the river, sticks from the ground that fell from the trees, so as they can cook their dinner. These children understand an innate responsibility of utilitarian work that you have to do to allow yourself to survive, and thus they become completely different beings to Europeans, Australians, Chinese, developed nations, Americans, because the children are growing up and they have a completely utilitarian look on the world. They know that they work because they have to work so as they can eat, so as they can bathe, so as they have water to drink. In Europe, most children work for pocket money. And what do they use pocket money for? desires. And thus we literally create completely differently wired humans in Europe to what you do here by raising children in that way. Now, I don't know how to integrate this as a father into Aslan's life, but I am conscious of it and I'm working on that. And I think I've picked up quite a few skills on parenting with my studies and my life here with all these different children with different backgrounds. And I'll start addressing that because a lot of you are parents and I want to share new things about myself, and this is part of me I don't share. But being conscious of the fact, at least for me, that if Aslan's working for pocket money, or any child is working for pocket money, what are they using the pocket money for? Well, it's never utilitarian need, because the parents cover utilitarian need, because we are told as parents you should look after your child and not expose them to any of that sort of work. Children are to be children. And I agree with that to some degree. It's why I tackle child labour. I don't want children suffering and labouring. But, and it's a big but, where does that go with the child's consciousness? A child is working as a child for pocket money, or they'll get into trouble for not doing their chores around the home. So the only consequence of not working is, first of all, the work you don't want to do is filled with a negative fear-based attitude. You'll get into trouble for not doing it. Children are the same everywhere here too. Some children might not want to do it, but they do it because they know if not, when they go home there's no dinner because there's no firewood to cook. Our children don't do it. They face the wrath of mother and father. Mum and dad shout and say, hey, you should have done what you were told, and you're grounded, you go to your room, you're not getting your pocket money, whatever, you know. So what we're teaching our children with that constantly is that you work in this world to get things to make you happy. And then we wonder why generations like mine, the millennials, grew up and had no control whatsoever when they got jobs and ability to get loans and all got into huge amounts of debt. Because every single parent in the land nearly had accidentally trained them to be consumers of desire-based items. They trained them to have a relationship whereby you work to get money, to get things that seemingly should make you happy, things that you have desired, and then there's that system begins of eternal disappointment where you buy it, you feel good, you have maybe a state of rapture, then it crashes and it goes, and you say, well, I'm not happy with what I bought, I've got to buy something else, that'll make me happy. So children are trained by us by doing this pocket money work thing, and I don't know where the boundary is, but I can see very clearly we are plugging our children into the matrix, first and foremost by exposing them to screens, etc. On a physical level, you plug them into the matrix because they are more stimulated by the colour on a screen than they are than the natural surroundings. That's human nature. But then they're watching things with adverts, so you're stimulating them into wanting desires, and there's all these desires flashed at them. I think it was Nostradamus said there will be a window to hell in every home. Is that not what we are looking at? You know, bearing in mind that the Christian story states that the bottomless pit is where the beast dwells. The beast is you, and the bottomless pit is human desire. You will never ever quench human desire, and no matter how much money you have, you will always desire more, unless you find contentment in the merely real. Now, that means that a lot of us have been trained or are training our children to be weak in this system. What you're doing is you're training them so as they have a weakness in their armor for corporations to access them. And you train them so they have a weakness in their responsibility of themselves, and thus many young people get to an age of working age and they just spend all of their money on alcohol, partying, trinkets that don't do anything, and before they know it they don't have anything, and they're waiting for their next week's salary or the next month's salary. And that's because they were not given by our society a good relationship with earning money, purely because, as I say, nearly 90+% of all children who work for pocket money, they do for desires. Now, I as a child, I laboured from the age of 12, and I'm glad I did. I laboured on a farm, and it was very beneficial for me. I got to drive at a young age, I got to work with animals, I got to work with land and understand where food was coming from. I became quite well built from it as well, because I was lifting lots of sacks and things and bales, and I knew hard work as a young man, and I knew what hard work was. But admittedly, when I left school, in my mind I had programmed myself that my hard work gets me to buy whatever the hell I want, and that stuff should make me happy. And as a young boy, we started introducing drugs and alcohol, and they felt like they were making me happy because, of course, as consumers, we are underserved. The system requires that you are always on the back foot and chasing something to make yourself feel happy. That's how the system exists. That's how consumerist society depends upon us doing that in a capitalist system as we have, which is not a true capitalist system. I feel it's a phony one, because there's so many restrictions on businesses and taxes. It's not a true capitalist system. But that is what the system does to us. And when you introduce drugs and alcohol, of course, then people start working for those things. And it's a perfectly designed, almost, way to get children to be consumers. And it's a cultural acceptance that children get pocket money and it's for this and this and this. But I don't know how that can be integrated into Western society. But I think at least parents should be conscious of it, so as they can start working out and eliminating the creation of these gaps inside our children's armour as they become young adults. Because raising a child, if I said to you, I'm going to start a school class, and that class will teach your children every single week of the year that when they work and earn money, it's for things that they desire and that might make them happen. Plastic junk, toys, music, drugs, alcohol. That's what I'm going to teach my children in school. That's what I'd say to everybody. Everyone would be in uproar and say we are not doing that. But when we do this pocket money thing, and there's no utilitarian consequence for not earning it, it's inadvertently what we are doing to our children. And being aware of that is at least the first point of me finding a structure to implement that into the life of the children here. Although most of the children here, we don't have a concern with it because I'm in Tanzania. But for my own son, then, who would have got pocket money, etc., then I see that at least being aware of it is a stepping stone to finding the solution to that. And I think just sharing that and putting that into Europe for some parents might make you see something, because a lot of you are my age, are younger or a little bit older, or most of us have had pocket money, and perhaps you can relate and say, hey, maybe, just maybe, I was trained as a consumer by accident, because the cultural norms we are fed are consumerist cultural norms. And thus, the cultural norms that we have are becoming dangerously able, for want of a better term, of pulling us and our children into that matrix of non-awareness and consumerism and the weakness of following the impulses of the flesh to try and get some joy. That was all I have to say on it. When I find a solution, I'll share that too. God bless, guys. Bye. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, as it really helps us to grow the channel and with it help more children here in Tanzania. Also, don't forget you can support our work by sharing with children in crisis here, be it sharing for a particular need or even sharing one-on-one support for education, housing, food and medical care. It can be done for as little as the cost of a cup of coffee a week back in the West after all. Just visit www.sharetanzania.co.uk to find out more. Lastly, remember you can also support us via Patreon, www.patreon.com/featherstail, and help keep us here in Tanzania to continue our work. The links for the website and for the Patreon are in the description box of this video. Love and light, guys. See you soon.